The PNP is still licking its wounds after the 2025 general election. Completely understandable, but at the same time, whenever they crawl out from that, there are three things they have to think about if they have any serious chance of winning the next election and not becoming the party permanently out of bush. I'm Dion Jackson Miller. Thank you so much for joining me. Time for tea. So let's dive straight in. First thing the PNP needs to think about, it has to let go of the wait your turn mentality. What am I talking about? It's this idea says so-and-so time now, and that younger people have to wait their turn for leadership. It's an old-fashioned idea, it's old school, it's sunk the PNP before and it's going to sink them again if they don't let go of it. Let me give you one example. Politics is kind of like track in a way, right? You have your window of time in which you can dominate and lead. If you miss your window, you can still run, but you're not going to win. For instance, I thought Peter Phillips would have made a good prime minister, right? But Phillips missed his window because Portia beat him twice. Both of them had the same window, but she got it instead of him. Now, what the PNP should have done when Portia was stepping down was to leapfrog over Phillips and go to another leader, a newer, fresher leader who could have ignited the population's interest and who could have won it for the PNP. Instead, what you are getting from the party is, boy, Phillips' time now, give him a chance. And he led the party to a big loss. So the PNP now has to look at its top-tier leadership now and decide what's going to be happening and what it's going to be doing. Is it going to be rewarding loyalty, years of service, or looking at who the electorate is likely to want to lead the country? And just to be clear, saying that you're looking at a leader that the electorate wants as prime minister doesn't mean that person is going to be a bad leader. It means you're introducing another very important metric into the conversation. And for the PNP supporters who are saying, predictably, boy, we get to choose who run the party, you are 100% correct. Because I remember JLP supporters used to say the same thing when Mr. Seaga was leader of the party, and look where it got them. So go on, carry on with that. I said in an earlier video I did that the PNP and Mark Golding have to decide early on if he's going to lead the party into the next election, and if not, to step away early so succession can play out properly. Now let's be clear, I'm not saying Golding needs to step down. I don't have a settled opinion on that right now. What I am sure about though is that the thinking cannot be that the PNP led by Mark nearly won in 2025 and therefore make Mark stay. That can't be it. The question has to be, can a PNP led by Mark win in another 4 years or another 5 years? Those are two very, very different positions. And if the PNP does not adopt the position in the latter question, meaning can Mark win in 4 or 5 years, if they don't do that, if they don't think about that, they might go lose. Now, the PNP announced that Golding was the only person nominated for the post of president of the party, and only 4 people were nominated as vice presidents: Michael Phillips, Ian Hales, Natalie Nita Garvey, and Mayor Norman Scott from St. Catharines. So that's their leadership right now. I'm going to say nothing about this slate looks exciting to me. Nothing about this slate to me spells renewal or suggests that the party is going to be going in any kind of new or interesting direction. Of course, there just was a general election. It could very well be that, nobody has an appetite right now for any kind of challenge or any kind of election or anything like that. People just try, just hold them corner, recover, so that they can get back into doing what it is they do. So it could very well be that what we're seeing here is the slate as a kind of holding pattern. That very well might be the case. It might be that in another year, for instance, when they get back their energy, we start to see some elections for these various positions. So I'll hold off and see. But I am going to say, if it stays like this does not look exciting to me. Second thing the PNP has to do, it has to learn to have internal elections without turning them into civil war. Now, I'm not one of those people who say that parties shouldn't have elections and challenges and everything should be by acclamation. I don't believe that. I don't think there was anything wrong with Peter Bunting challenging Peter Phillips for the presidency of the party. There's nothing wrong with organizations wanting to renew themselves. There's nothing wrong with leaders being challenged. The problem with the PNP is that every time they have a leadership challenge, it seems to split them right down the middle and then can't heal. The PNP needs to learn how to have these elections. People need to compete robustly, right? They need to win gracefully, lose gracefully, and come back together when the election done. Because if Mark Golding decides to stay on as PNP president, I would be very surprised if he makes it through the next 5 years without a challenge, right? So they need to sort that out. The third thing the PNP needs to bear in mind is that its shadow cabinet needs to work. Normally what happens when a shadow cabinet is announced is that it does get a lot of press, right? Because by that time, news kind of start to slow down, especially if the government doesn't change. So there isn't a lot going on right now. So it gets a whole heap of press. Who got this portfolio? Who got that portfolio? And then after that, crickets. In the last year or so, right? The PNP shadow cabinet was very active, then put out a whole heap of statement on this, that, and terror. So there was a lot of that, let me say that. But even with that, you have a fair number of them where you can't remember their name, you can't remember their portfolio, and when they do put out anything, it's a big yawn, and it hardly gets any kind of traction. So who's in the shadow cabinet this time? Now, personally, I don't care how many there are. I also don't care that the names don't match up exactly with the actual cabinet. First of all, it's not taxpayers paying them, so I don't care. And the other thing is that for me, a leader in opposition, a party in opposition, I think it's natural that they're going to want to play around with the portfolios a little bit, see what works, see what doesn't work. What is important for me is that every minister in government does have somebody shadowing him or her, somebody who is monitoring, somebody who is keeping up with the plans, the proposals, the legislation, and who is speaking to the public on these issues. That is what is important for me. Not whether or not it's 20 or 27 or whether they're exact mirror images or not. I don't think that's important at all. Having said that, I find a couple of the choices a little curious. So for instance, Mr. Golding himself has taken defense, so he's shadowing the Prime Minister, who is the Minister of Defense, but Golding also has constitutional affairs. Now, Zuleika Jess is going to be speaking on justice. Isaac Buchanan is going to be speaking on human rights. So I think they're going to have to do some proper coordinating to make sure they don't trip over themselves or even worse, end up contradicting one another. Now, that would be a disaster. Same for productivity, efficiency, and competitiveness. Yes, that's a portfolio in the shadow cabinet. Peter Bunting is a spokesperson. Senator Cleveland Tomlinson is his deputy. Then you have another portfolio called Trade, Industry, and Global Logistics with Tony Hilton as spokesperson and Keisha Anderson as the deputy. So let's see what happens and how they manage to handle what certainly looks like overlapping areas. Looking at this list and based on experience, some of the portfolios we may never hear about again could be social protection and social transformation, urban renewal and development, and rural and community development. Let me be clear. I'm not saying these areas aren't important. I'm saying they are. I am saying that they sound like the type of portfolios that we're going to hear very little about. So let's see. Now, he's brought in 5 new senators as deputy spokespersons. Ramon Ferguson, Cleveland Tomlinson, Keisha Anderson, Alan Bernard, and Maziki Fame. And I have to say, I think this is a mistake. Not naming them, but naming them as deputies. I think this is a set of highly skilled professionals. They're new faces, they're new voices. Believe me, we need those. And I think there are several people he could have sidelined to give this set a chance to handle full portfolios. They have a place in Parliament because they're in the Senate, and it would have been interesting to hear what they could do with some of these portfolios instead of some of the people that he did name and who just haven't been very impressive in the past. Part of it is just probably that for me this deputy spokesperson thing has never really taken off. Look, if I'm wanting to talk to an opposition person on a particular portfolio area, I want the person who has charge of the portfolio, not the deputy. And before you start telling me about seniority and how young people need to learn the ropes, remember I said at the start, the need for change how they think about these things, prepare people to get up to speed very, very fast, or else they will go out of grass for a long, long time. So I'm gonna leave it there. What do you think? Want to know what you think as always, so comment below, alright? Remember to keep it civil. Like the video, share it with somebody who might be interested, subscribe to the channel if you're not yet subscribed, and of course click that notification bell so you know anytime I drop a new video. I'm Dion. Thank you so much for watching. On back to my tea.